other means of settling disputes have failed. It is the conviction and courage of a few that must be called upon when all other means do fail. We honor those who bear the weight of such responsibility. We must be a grateful nation and honor such heroes for their service and sacrifice. So let this day of remembrance and memorial be dedicated to all those who have answered the call, and to the families who now must endure the loss of loved ones. Let our hearts know their sorrow. May it sting us in such a way that we never forget the heartbreak of war. Never should such a price have been asked for of these families. And while we cannot change the past, may their grief be a sober reminder of the price paid for us to be able to find common ground today. Let us honor the dead by living a grateful life, worthy of their sacrifice. The day-to-day conflict seems so small in comparison to that which they have endured. In truth, they are really nothing at all. Let us celebrate the gift of life in abundance, knowing we must do the living we are no longer able to. And so God, give us the wisdom in our remembrance today, I pray. Amen.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to the Otis Civilian Advisory Council Memorial Day Observance. I would like to introduce Don Cox, past president of Otis Civilian Advisory Council and president of Cape Cod Military Support Foundation, to welcome and acknowledgement of dignitaries and attendants. Please, Don.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start out by saying this is the 7th Memorial Day observance that I have had at this park, and by far, the park has never looked this great. How about a nice round of applause for all the people who put this together? I'd like to introduce the dignitaries and attendants. Please stand when I call your name. Brigadier General Christopher Foe, Assistant Adjutant General, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and Executive Director of Joint Base Cape Cod. Captain Michael Hudson, U.S. Coast Guard Commanding Officer, Base Cape Cod. Captain Richard Schultz, U.S. Coast Guard Commander, Sector Southeastern New England. Colonel Virginia Doonan, Air National Guard, 102nd Intelligence Wing, and Assistant Executive Director of Joint Base Cape Cod. Commander Peter Ianoke, Operations Officer, Air Station, Coast Guard, Joint Base Cape Cod. Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Hippie, Commander 6th Base Warning Squadron. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Porter, Camp Edwards Base Operations Officer. Kathleen Palmer, representing State Representative David Vieira. And is Sheriff Cummings here? I'd also like to introduce two former commanders from the base, Captain John Konatowicz, Sector Southeastern New England, over here to my right, and Captain Andy Clyburn, retired U.S. Coast Guard from Joint Base Cape Cod. If I could have the OCAC members stand, please. All the members of the Otis Civilian Advisory Council, this is the 49th ceremony that we've done here at this park, and all of these people are responsible for maintaining and making this go on in perpetuity. I'd also like to ask the presidents to remain standing now, so I can introduce the former presidents. We have Charles Peterman from the Otis Civilian Advisory Council, Tony DeMambro, Dave Stanford, and Carroll Assad. I'd like to say that it's been a wonderful opportunity to work here and help put this event together for the last 7 years. And John, you did a great job this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I'd like to take a moment and provide a little history of Otis Civilian Advisory Council came about in this beautiful park. The Otis Civilian Advisory Council dates back to the 1940s. Colonel William Toll, commander Camp Edwards, was the first to invite a group of prominent local citizens to meet periodically and serve as liaisons between the military and the surrounding communities. The first major product by the council was the Memorial Park, which was conceived in the 1960s to honor our military personnel and their families. assigned here at the Otis Air Force Base, Camp Edwards, who were killed in the line of duty. The success of the Memorial Park, the enthusiasm, and the spirit that resulted within the council encourage members to continue this active role in supporting the base and personnel and the families. How does Otis Civilian Advisory Council help over the years? New programs have developed and encouraged, such as scholarships, family assistance, award ceremonies, Easter egg hunt, Cross Christmas, and the development of Cape Cod Military Support Foundation. A lot of the members here and prior have really enjoyed and support you all. I want to thank you. But before I give up the podium to our guest speaker, I would like to say a few words. Captain Michael A. Hudson, recent tour as the Business Operation Division Chief at the Coast Guard Shore Infrastructure Logistics Center. Captain Hudson is a cutterman, having served in Coast Guard cutters, the Vigilant, Confidence, Tampa, and commanding the Tahoma. Is that correct, sir? Captain Hudson has managed and served in many key positions in his career. Please let me welcome our guest speaker, Captain Michael A. Hudson, United States Coast Guard Commanding Officer, Base Cape.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully the wind won't blow the papers away with this hand mic, and if you expect me to do a little song and dance with this mic, you're going to be disappointed. But thank you for attending this Memorial Day observance. I'd like to also welcome our distinguished guest, General Poe, and our other distinguished guests in attendance, as well as members of the Trubnikova family. I believe it is an obligatory part of all Memorial Day observances, and if not, it probably should be, to share briefly the history of this day so that we do not forget its core meaning. Memorial Day as we know it today began as Decoration Day following the Civil War. And although the tradition of adorning soldiers' graves as a symbol of remembrance is an ancient tradition dating back to the ancient Greeks, the practice of doing so in this country did not begin in earnest until during the Civil War. Following the war, the northern states began to set aside a specific date for remembrance and decorating graves, which was May 30th, and the southern states tended to have separate dates by state. In 1968, the various decoration days were consolidated into one federal holiday, permanently renamed to Memorial Day, and moved to the last Monday of May. How it became a kickoff to the summer season and a time for barbecues and celebration, I can't say for sure, but it is kind of where we are today. I'm careful not to wish people a happy Memorial Day, and I bristle when people do the same to me. But at the same time, it is not necessarily a day to be glum or melodramatic. Every year on the anniversary of the death of a family member, I pause and I think fondly of their influence on my life, and then I move on. Similarly, on Memorial Day, a day set aside for remembering all those who died while serving our country, I think back to friends and shipmates, people like Lieutenant Junior Grade Matt Young, John Hastings, Petty Officer Keith Witowski, Seaman Mark Woomer, Lieutenant Commander Andy Wieschmeyer, Lieutenant Commander Che Barnes, and sadly, as of this morning, Commander Ellis Moose, as well as others who I didn't know well but were important to my personal family and the Coast Guard family. People like Corporal Seamus Davey, Senior Chief Terrell Horn, and Petty Officer Nathan Bruckenthal. I think of all these people on Memorial Day. I pause and reflect on their influence on my life, and then I move on. It is a bit of an irony that we have this day to force us to pause and remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country, and I only say irony because for those whom we knew personally, we never truly forget their influence, and we will always think about them on more than just this one day. I would like to read to you a passage from a monument a monument I particularly appreciate, and I'm sure many of you here actually know these words. These words were written decades ago, but I think still speak volumes to today's observance. And I'll quote them in part, at least. No record of dates, events, or even the names of the men and women can bear adequate witness to the significance of their sacrifice and its meaning for mankind. It was the lot of these men and women to make the supreme sacrifice, not in the heat of battle, or in the course of some spectacular deed or individual heroism, but rather in the carrying out of frequently repeated, though never routine missions, essential to the security of their country and to the preservation of democracy. In our time, it has become the destiny of many to serve in the armed forces in times of peace, and the destiny of a growing number to lose their lives in the prevention rather than the prosecution of war. Therefore, this memorial speaks to us not only of the men and women whose names are here set forth, but also of the continuing, unheralded, yet essential sacrifices made and still to be made by all who accept the responsibilities of duty, honor, and country, unquote. Now, clearly this was written some time ago, as we have been a nation at war for quite a long time now, and we have lost thousands in the prosecution of that war. However, the reality is that not everyone who wears the uniform will deploy to a battlefield. Hundreds of thousands, if not more, will serve in the military, willing to, and sometimes making, that ultimate sacrifice, but will not face the horrors of combat. As the monument says, the unheralded yet essential sacrifices by all who accept their responsibilities. Incidentally, if you would like to read the full passage from which I quoted, I would invite you to pause and read the plaque on the monument to the entrance to this park. I live just around the corner in the base housing community, and I pass Otis Memorial Park at least twice a day. But I also like to take a stroll through here and also through the Massachusetts National Cemetery at other times. They are places of peace, honor, and reflection. I walk among these monuments to crews long gone, but not forgotten, and I wonder about their stories. Some I know, at least in part, like the crew of Homie 82, whom we recognized at this observance last year, or the crew of CG 1432, for whom we have Coast Guard buildings named on base. But there are other monuments for whom I don't fully know the story, and that is unfortunate. We all have stories. People, places, cultures, military units all have stories. It is truly unfortunate when those stories are lost. When we make the effort to put a name on a building or place a monument, we have committed to memorializing a person or crew, but we must also commit to memorializing their story. You might say we need to focus on the who, what, and why. Who were they? Why are we making the effort? And what was their impact on the community? This year, we have a new monument just off to the left here that we will dedicate. Before we unveil it, I would like to tell you briefly the story of that monument. It's a story of a young woman who grew up in West Texas, Midland to be exact, and went to school in Houston. From there, she responded to the call, like so many of us who wear the uniform do. For some of us in uniform, it's a job, and sometimes nothing more. And for others, it is a calling. You're pulled to it for reasons you cannot fully explain. She was called. And following Coast Guard recruit training at Cape May, she was assigned to the Coast Guard's Aids to Navigation team in New Orleans, Louisiana, where she excelled and earned Sailor of the Quarter honors. She went to school and got rated as an information systems technician and was assigned to Kodiak, Alaska. From there, she came here to Cape Cod and continued to excel. In 2011, while in information systems technician school, she met her future spouse, and they married later that year in New York. She was an asset to the Coast Guard, a delight to have in the IT shop, and the tragic loss of Petty Officer Lisa Trubnikova in February 2015 will forever be remembered by those who knew her, and her name is now memorialized in this park. Chief Warrant Officer Cronin, would you please escort Ms. Trubnikova to the memorial? In closing, as you walk the grounds here today and in the future, pause at the monuments and reflect on the story they tell. Reflect on the people whose names are listed in bronze. Reflect on the sacrifices they made and the influences they had. And take comfort in knowing that their influence ensures we will never forget them this Memorial Day nor any other. And beyond that, I ask you, indeed I charge us all, to learn someone's story, a new one you are unfamiliar with, and pass it on. Ensure stories are not lost. Ensure that Memorial Day is not simply a once-a-year observance where we gather and lay a wreath and speak of sacrifices, but rather we seek to embody and pay forward throughout the year the meaning of Memorial Day. That is, to live our lives in awareness of the influences and the sacrifices of those who have gone before. I thank you.
Let us conclude with this good word of remembrance. For there is no end to that which God has ordained to be eternal. Just as there has been a today, there shall be a tomorrow, whether it be in the life of this world or the next. Thy goodness never fails. It is only the living that knows loss, but to God no one is ever truly lost. Let this be the hope that sustains us in our remembrance, I pray. Amen.
So it's coming to the conclusion, and I want to thank you all. I think the plural to you all is all you all. But from all of us at Otis Civilian Advisory Council, it is an honor, and we are proud to serve you, those who serve our country. As we leave here, this will be a memorable day to all of us, for those who have passed. But I do want to say, everyone here, you're all welcome to join us for refreshments at the Eagle's Nest following the ceremony. And again, we want to thank you and come again.